Imagine a soldier so loyal, so determined, that he fought a war for 30 years, long after it had ended. This is the story of Hiroo Onoda, a Japanese lieutenant who refused to surrender, waging a one-man battle in the jungles of the Philippines until 1974. His tale is one of duty, survival, and a twist so incredible, you'll be stunned by what he did when he finally emerged. Stick with me to the end, because the final moment of his story will leave you speechless. In December 1944, 22-year-old Hiroo Onoda was sent to Lubang Island in the Philippines as an intelligence officer in the Imperial Japanese Army. His orders were clear conduct guerrilla warfare, gather intelligence, and never surrender. He was told to hold the island until the Japanese army returned, no matter the cost. Forbidden to die by his own hand, Onoda was trained to survive using any means necessary. But when World War II ended in August 1945 with Japan's surrender, Onoda's war was just beginning. As American and Filipino forces took control of Lubang, Onoda and 3 comrades, Yuichi Akatsu, Shoichi Shimada, and Kinshichi Kozuka, retreated into the dense jungle. They refused to believe the war was over. Leaflets dropped from planes announced Japan's defeat, but Onoda dismissed them as Allied propaganda. Even letters and photos from their families airdropped in 1952 were deemed fakes. To Onoda, the fight continued. He and his men survived on bananas, coconuts, stolen rice, and occasionally cattle, evading search parties with cunning and skill. Their guerrilla tactics were relentless. They burned crops, stole supplies, and clashed with locals, whom they mistook for enemy soldiers. Over the years, these skirmishes led to the deaths of up to 30 civilians and injuries to about 100 others. Onoda's group believed they were fighting for Japan, unaware that their actions were now acts of violence in a time of peace. But the jungle was unforgiving, and so was fate. In 1949, Akatsu left the group and surrendered in 1950, confirming to the world that Onoda and the others were still alive. In 1954, Shimada was killed in a shootout with local fishermen. Kozuka held out with Onoda until 1972 when he too was shot dead by police. Now, Onoda was alone, the last soldier standing. For nearly 3 decades he lived in isolation, moving camps every few days, sleeping on sloped terrain to stay alert. He faced monsoons, hunger, and the constant threat of discovery. Yet his loyalty to his orders never wavered. He even stole a radio and heard news of Japan's post-war recovery, but he interpreted it as coded messages proving the war raged on. Jets flying overhead during the Korean and Vietnam Wars only reinforced his belief that Japan was still fighting. How could one man cling to such a conviction for so long? The answer lies in his training and an unbreakable sense of duty rooted in the Bushido Code, a warrior's honor that demanded absolute loyalty. In 1974, everything changed. A young Japanese adventurer named Norio Suzuki set out to find Onoda, driven by a quest to meet Lieutenant Onoda, a panda, and the abominable snowman, in that order. After days of searching Lubang's jungles, Suzuki found him. Onoda, still in his tattered uniform, rifle in hand, was wary, but intrigued. Suzuki explained that the war had ended 29 years ago, but Onoda refused to surrender without orders from his commanding officer. Suzuki left with photos of their meeting, proof that Onoda was alive, and a promise to help. The Japanese government tracked down Onoda's former commander, Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, now a bookseller. On March 9, 1974, Taniguchi flew to Lubang and met Onoda in the jungle. In a formal ceremony, he delivered the order Onoda had waited for. The war is over. You are relieved of duty. At 52, Onoda saluted, handed over his rifle, sword, and 500 rounds of ammunition, and wept. After 29 years, his war was finally over. But what happened next is the moment you've been waiting for, the twist that makes this story unforgettable. On March 11, 1974, Onoda emerged from the jungle and surrendered to Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos in a televised ceremony. Dressed in his worn-out uniform, he presented his sword, a symbol of his unwavering resolve. Marcos, moved by Onoda's dedication, returned the sword and pardoned him for the deaths caused during his guerrilla campaign, citing the extraordinary circumstances. Onoda returned to Japan as a national hero, greeted by crowds and media. His memoir, No Surrender: My 30-Year War, became a bestseller, captivating the world with his tale of survival. But here's the jaw-dropping part. When Onoda stepped into modern Japan, he was a man out of time. Skyscrapers, cars, and a consumerist culture shocked him. He struggled to adapt, feeling that Japan's post-war values clashed with his warrior ethos. So, in 1975, he moved to Brazil to become a cattle rancher seeking a simpler life. Yet his story didn't end there. In 1984, he returned to Japan and founded the Onoda Nature School to teach children survival skills and the value of independence, lessons forged in the jungle. Until his death in 2014 at age 91, Onoda remained a symbol of loyalty, but also a reminder of the cost of blind devotion. Hiroo Onoda's 30-Year War wasn't just a battle against enemies he imagined, it was a fight against time, truth, and the changing world. His story challenges us to ask, what would you hold on to, even when the world tells you to let go? And that final twist, his choice to step away from fame and live quietly in Brazil, shows a man who, even after surrendering, never lost his sense of purpose.